Jeff Krieger here with Matt. Thank you all for coming to our Township Tuesday. Glad that you could join us. Move my light over here so you guys can actually see me. Maybe you don't want to see me. I don't blame you. We don't have a big agenda today, so I was going to pass the reins over to Pat. Pat, you want to take it off from here and just discuss whatever you want to discuss? No, not no. All right. Don't say I never gave you the opportunity. I do have a few things I want to talk about. There we go. Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate that. Or Kristen, whoever's taking the controls of that. Spring is coming. Hopefully, we know we're going to get hit with winter pretty quick on Thursday. So I hope you all are batten down the hatches and ready for that. Just a couple of things here. Gary and I, MAP Board President Gary Burdorf and I did go to DC last week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, had some great meetings with some legislators, mostly talking about broadband, although it's a great bipartisan issue and everyone seems to be on board with that. We still want to keep the heat on our legislators, and because we know we still have a lot of not just underserved but unserved areas that really need to be positively impacted with some of these dollars, and also a couple other things. Obviously, transportation funding is always a big thing. We're always looking for roads, but also the grant applications. One of the things that I've been very disenchanted with, we'll say it nicely, is how difficult our grant writing process is, and to try and get any type of funding from the federal government. They definitely dumbed it down, for at least for me, when it came to ARPA, and it made it a lot easier. But even that was quite challenging for a lot of us, especially with sam.gov. And I definitely expressed my displeasure with that website, and that we're still contending with as far as with doing our reporting and things of that nature. But again, we had some good conversations with legislators and with their staff, and I'm already getting some good feedback from them. And obviously, wheels of the legislature, especially at the U.S. Capitol, turn very slow. We think Minnesota turns slow. U.S. is even worse, and I know I'm singing to the choir when I say that, but it doesn't mean that we want to give up, and we definitely want to keep the pressure on them so that they always keep us top of mind. And we want the legislators to talk to townships whenever they make changes. One of the things that I know I've talked to, and I actually had great discussions with Brian Finstead. I think it's Brian or Brad Finstead in District 1, U.S. Congressman. Anybody down in District 1 know to correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, one of the things is a rural definition, or what is a rural definition from the federal means. Because we have 20 states right now that have townships, and we're of course one of them. We had the most townships of any state in the nation, with 1,777 now that we've had. One or two turn into a city, and we've had one merge and one dissolve. But the rural definition changes, depends upon the program. It's anywhere between 50,000 to 200,000 and under. And well, I don't know about you guys, but we don't have any, at least not many townships in Minnesota that have 200,000 people. Actually, we have none. White Bear Township is our largest township with just over 11,000 people. And so we've actually started the process of getting that rural definition down to 20,000 and under. And again, it's going to take time. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to turn on a dime, but at least we're starting that process going. And so these people, legislators, and the agencies actually understand what it means to be a township, at least by Minnesota and Midwest standards go. Township Day is March 14th, next Tuesday. Yay. I hope you all are prepared for that and have your levy proposals all set up. I know I have my meeting tonight and with my fellow supervisors, and we're going to be discussing what we want to propose for next week. And I'm suggesting for everybody that if you can, unless you have a huge surplus, which, I mean, hey, let's face it, we all have huge surpluses, right? We want to increase that levy. You guys need room. You need to be able to flex. And when you have other expenses that occur, we want to be able to provide those services to our people. And so don't be shy. I know that it's a badge of honor for us to be frugal, but frugal doesn't necessarily have to mean cheap. Frugal, in my definition, is efficient. And we are extremely efficient. That's proven time and time again. But we also want to make sure that we are giving ourselves that ability to be able to do the services with the efficiency that we are so used to. The other thing too that I wanted to touch on, and I know I've touched on this before too, is paying you supervisors, clerks, and treasurers. And yes, it's a volunteer situation for the most part, and it is a public service. We get that, but this is also time and that's taken away from your family that you could spend otherwise. And the issue that we're coming up against, we all joke about it, is that the only way that we're going to be able to lead this position is if we find somebody else to take it or we die. And I'm not suggesting that we raise our per diem so that it's a livable wage. We don't need to do that, but we do need to show respect to those officers who are serving and make it at least a little more attractive to those coming up behind us. And so that they will want to more readily, hopefully, want to serve in that capacity. Just kind of think about that when you plan for your proposal to your township residents. And also, Spring Short Course in person starting March 20th. Be there, be square. We are looking forward to finally being in person, and we cannot wait to see all you guys. Typically, we see between 3,000 and 3,500 people. That's about a third of our whole membership base. And I, for one, am ecstatic about that opportunity. It's going to be hell on my staff and myself. But we're looking forward to 3 straight weeks, 5 days a week for 3 weeks. And then we're going to be able to be on the road and talk with you guys. Bring your questions, bring your friends, bring your dogs. I don't care. We want to see all of you there. And just so we can have a good time and actually be in community with one another. That's what our association is about. Is that talking to each other, being one voice. It doesn't mean that we all have to agree, and we can definitely have our discourse. And but that's where we come up with the best solutions for a lot of or almost any trouble, any problem that we run up against. We can fix this. A couple of things from the legislative standpoint is transportation funding is finally getting some legs. And if you're not familiar with what we're going after $40 million this year. And the last few years, it's been $20 million. Well, we went back in the interim and we rejacked our numbers and looked at as far as what 20 million actually means in the grand scheme of things. Well, it was a little bit better than peanuts. And what we're looking at as far as what we currently get with the HUTDF, which is the Highway User Trust Fund, is last year we got $52 million. That's essentially our gas tax. And what I failed to realize is that within that was a $12 million one-time infusion that was in the governor's budget. Well, okay, that sounds all good and great for 2022. What does that do for 2023? This year, 2023, which with the reduction of what the projected revenue of gas tax is, plus the absence of a bonding bill from last year, so there's no more one-time funding for 2023. We're looking at about $37 million, down $15 million from last year. That's a huge, huge hit for us townships. And one that, again, we've been looking for. It started out $15 million in additional dollars, up to $20 million since 2014, I believe, when that TFAC study came out. And so that's why we're going up to $40 million, because we have been absent, or no, we haven't been absent, but the legislature has been absent in getting us that additional funding that we have been so desperately needing. And we're well over $100 million in arrears that we should have been getting all along. Had the legislature approved that back in 2014 or whatever the TFAC study came out. So anyways, we're going up to 40 million right now. We are looking at an increase in the MVAS, which is basically the motor vehicle tab fee. And that's in the governor's budget. And we're looking at all of that going into the HUTDF funding or trust fund, whatever. And of that is going to be an actual carve out for small cities and for townships. Small cities being under 5,000, townships being all of us, and 5% for each type of government unit, LGU. And what that's going to amount to in actual dollar terms is about $43 million in additional funding for 2023. That's over and above what we normally get from the HUTDF, which again, this year is going to be about 37 million. And actually it will be a little bit more because if all the tap fees go into the HUTDF, we get a certain percentage of the HUTDF already. So of course you put more dollars into it. Our percentage stays the same. So we're going to get more out of it besides our carve out. And I don't know what that figure is. I'm guessing it's going to be 38, 39 million possibly. So all total, if all is said and done, we could get over $80 million. But that's on the high end. You know how that goes, negotiation, everything kind of goes down. So now we're at 40 million. We're hoping, we don't know where this is going to end. Last year, we started out at 37 million and got down to 18, which is what it came down to in committee. And you all know what we got, bumpkiss. And because they decided any type of omnibus bill. So I won't make any promises, but we are working hard to try and get that for you. And well, for me too, because I'm also an officer in Newmarket, so we want the money as well. That's that. PILT. PILT has got some good legs. It's been introduced in both the House and the Senate, payment in lieu of taxes. So those of you who have PILT land, this is definitely something of importance for you. This was authored by Lissagard up in the north, up in the Iron Range, and he's also chair of that committee, which is the tax committee. And which has been wonderful. So we've had some testimony on that. I know Steve has testified. John Upton of St. Louis County, he had testified on February 1 when we had Township Day. It went very, very well. And I know I spoke about Township Day before, but I'll say it again. Our appearance there and talk to legislators and the after effect when legislators were in their hearings and they were making comments about, hey, I just talked with some township officers and about such and such, and everything was apropos to what they were discussing in whatever hearing they were in. These meetings that we have are invaluable. So again, I want to stress, I want to thank you to all. Is almost 100 people that we had come to the state capitol in February for Township Day, and that was absolutely fantastic. Construction sales tax. That it's not a bill that we push forward, but we are on board with the other associations, a league, coalition, small cities, so forth. Basically, when you're building your roads and your vendor, your contractor is going out buying materials for the roads, what this bill will do, it'll put on the front end where they will not be taxed the sales tax on those goods. So that, of course, when you guys get billed by the contractor in the past, and you've been paying that sales tax, and then of course you have to go through the rigmarole of doing the refund thing from the state, which I've never done it, but I've heard it's been a real pain in the butt. And so this will actually ease the burden of you clerks and treasurers from having to go for that refund, because you'll never be charged the sales tax on the front end. And so that's a good thing. This seems to have strong bipartisan support. And so we feel very strongly that this one's going to go for us. Para is obviously it's the employment retirement fund. There are two different types of funds in para. One is the contribution, the other is the benefits plan. Contribution is for you supervisors. You elected officials, I guess treasurers and clerks too are elected. You're able to, if you choose to go on to para, you are in the contribution plan. If you stop being an elected official and become an appointed official, you automatically, your elected or your contribution plan automatically stops, and you are forced to go into the benefits plan. So even if you want to stay with contributions, you can't. And so what this bill will essentially do, and this is one that we're authoring or that we had written up, what it'll do is that if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. I know you've heard that old story before about health insurance, but this one is actually true. So if you like your contributions plan as an elected official, once you become appointed, you'll be able to stay in that contribution plan as an appointed official. So just know that. And again, that's getting strong bipartisan support, and we feel pretty good. I will not promise anything, but we feel pretty confident about that. One of the other ones annexation. I'll be very honest with you. I don't think annexation is going to go anywhere this year, because we have 70 new legislators, and very few, even the veterans, they know very little about townships. And I know I say this every 2 weeks, because that's when we meet, is every 2 weeks. is, guys, we need to be hounding these legislators. We need to be pounding on the phones. We need to be calling them, making them our best friend, going out to coffee with them, whatever. When they call up and say, oh God, it's Pat again. But they'll take your call. I know I pick on you, Pat. I know I like picking on you. But they'll take your call, and the best thing that we could do is when they get to know you so well, and they have a township issue that comes up, and they're going to call you, Pat, and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or they're going to call us. They have been calling us, which is wonderful, and that's been a little change up from what we've had in the past. They're actually considering what townships are concerned about. But this annexation thing. Cities are powerful. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We have more officers. We can make a lot more noise. Unfortunately, we choose not to. And but until that turns around, I don't think we're going to be making any headway with annexation. But we as a collective group need to come together as one voice and just hit these guys hard. Obviously, very respectful and no violence and any of that type of stuff. But metaphorically, we need to hit them hard and let them know that this is a huge concern for us. And but it's only going to happen with your support, with your assistance in doing this. And so I'm going to stop there. I think I possibly have some questions here. How do you decide how much to set the levy for? Let's see, Pat, how much do you want to be paid? I'm kidding, of course. Every township obviously is different. Obviously, the bigger ones, they theoretically should be able to afford more, and theoretically you're probably working a little bit more in doing that as well, in trying to take care of the roads and making those decisions and so forth. I don't know what you guys. I mean, I've been grateful that my meetings, monthly meetings, have been going down at least a little bit. When I first started, my meetings were 4 hours long, and they're finally down to 2.5 to 3, and which I'm grateful for. But that's every month, and I mean, obviously there's prep time and so forth. You guys need to be compensated for that. And and I've been asked many times, what are supervisors and clerks and treasurers being paid? Is all over the board, and there is no standard. Really, it depends upon what your residents, not necessarily what they can afford. I mean, because everyone's going to say, "Oh, we're all broke," and I get that. But that's the old joke, right? Said no one ever has money to pay taxes, but we all want services, and unfortunately, we all want to have this for free. And people need to realize that that's just unrealistic, especially in this day and age. Is that people need to be compensated for their time. And again, to me, it's not about a livable wage. It's about having respect for those who are serving the public. And that's what you guys are doing. And so you should not be expected to do this for peanuts. And no one's going to get rich, but you need to be respected by your residents. Who's Pat and Deanne? You're saying Pat or Township increases the levy approximately what the cost of living is, 1 to 3% usually. That's awesome. I assume that's Deanne. Deanne, your husband Pete. That's a great way to look at it. We do need to keep up with inflation. I do know even like for our MAT dues. So you may not realize that we have not had a MAT dues increase since 2013. It's been 10 years since we've had that. We are going to be looking at possibly doing a MAT dues increase. My main focus is to protect the small townships. And because obviously you guys are the hardest ones that would be hit with any type of increase on a per capita basis. So that is my number one concern, is to protect you guys. The bigger townships, you should have a little more latitude, but and a little more flexibility when it comes to that. But we do need to, with the lobbying, I want to get another attorney in here in this office, and that could help with lobbying. We used to have 3 attorneys, and we haven't had 3 attorneys in, I think, 4 years, I'm guessing. And but we need to have someone that can help free up my time, because I've been doing all the lobbying, and I'm down at the Capitol 2 or 3 days a week. And which means, I mean, my staff is just running amok, just great. No, I'm kidding. My staff is great. But still, there are things I need to be doing here at the office. Talking to you, township officials, when I get those phone calls, it's taking me. We're trying to get a process where we can return phone calls within 24 hours. I have been bad about that, and because again, I just have not had the bandwidth to be able to make those callbacks in a timely fashion. And but we're looking at getting another attorney in here so that he or she can do the lobbying for us with SHEP and so forth, and hopefully make a bigger presence at the state capitol and make some more noise that way too. So what is your base to start with? Or we have residents that think it should be 0. Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? They want the world. They want city services, but they don't want anything at all to pay for it. Lately, we've been trying for about a third of what our total costs are to run the whole township. Yikes. I think you need to have a reality check with your residents, honestly. And it's not going to be an easy conversation. I know that. I mean, I had those residents too. And but we every year it seems like and I've only been a township officer for 4.5 years, so it's not like I've had this conversation for 20 years with them. But the years that I have been there, we've had these conversations. Like, you guys want to have dust coating, and yeah, my township spends money on dust coating. I don't know about all of you guys, but that's just crazy expensive. But we do it because that's what our residents want. It's like, this stuff is not coming free, and there has to be a cost for this. I believe quality of life. I'm all for dust coating, if that's what they want. And but everything comes at a cost. And and everything is transparent. They can look at anything that they want. They can see all the invoices if they want to do that. And we're not getting rich as supervisors, clerks, and treasurers. And the township's not making any money on this stuff either. That's not our purpose. And but we want to make sure that we do offer the services. And Deanne replied with, we use last year's levy as our base. Yep, that we do too. We always know cost increase by fire departments. Yeah, fire's been crazy in some locations. I know ours is too. I know our nearby city, Elko Newmarket, just bought a couple of years back a $1.2 million ladder truck. And we just got rid of our pumper truck and had to buy another one. I don't know, one of those 300,000-400,000, chump change, right? And so I mean, it's just, I know that I think our annual payment is about 250,000 or just over 250,000 a year, and it's just insane what those things are costing us. But obviously, we need to have protection for our people, and that's part of the services that some of our residents just don't understand. But that's what we're up against. If they get on the board, if they want to run the board, they're going to get a rude awakening as to what reality really is. But as long as they're residents, currently, we still need to be able to give them that same education, and so that they truly understand that they're on our side, and they can help support us and get other residents on board with that too. But that's all the questions I see. Any other questions before I pass it off to Graham? I know you all want to hear from Graham. Hearing none, going once, going twice. Graham, you're up, dude. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. All right. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And all righty. There we go. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Today, I thought I would just sort of talk a little bit about Minnesota's urban powers for townships, sort of just what they are, how you get them, advantages, disadvantages of potentially adopting this structure for your township. So, as with most of township government, there's a lot of different terms that kind of float around these spaces. There's a lot of different, I don't know, not quite slang terms, but not quite jargon either. Sometimes you'll hear folks use terms like urban township or urban powers, but what we're talking about here is a special chapter of Minnesota's statutes, Chapter 368, that can grant a township government certain extra powers, certain different structures in specific circumstances. But just in terms of orienting us, I think it's always helpful to sort of talk about who this applies to first. So there are two ways for this stuff to start applying to you. There is the mandatory designation, meaning you have no choice about it. And there's the permissive designation, meaning your electors have to take a look at this and decide this is something that they potentially want. Within the mandatory designation, there are two different ways to get it. Now, this comes from Minnesota Statute 368.01 Subdivision 1, which you are seeing up on your screen right now. Basically, if you have plotted portions with a population greater than 1,200 people, congratulations, you are an urban township, whether you like it or not. The other one, if you are within 20 miles of a city of the first class containing more than 200,000 people, you're also an urban township, congratulations, though you probably knew that already. So there are 4 cities of the first class in Minnesota, just so you know. It's Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, and Duluth. Of these, only Minneapolis and St. Paul have more than 200,000 people. So if you are within 20 miles of City Hall, Minneapolis, or St. Paul, then you're an urban township. Now, more relevant to most of our members, and frankly, in my experience, the much more common way to get these powers comes from Minnesota Statute 368.01, subdivision 1A. This is what we've called permissive designation. So what this is, it comes from the statute that's up on your screen right now. And here's my quick and dirty little breakdown of it. If you have 1,000 people, if you don't already qualify, that is, you're not a mandatory township for whatever reason, then at the annual meeting, the electors can, through an affirmative vote, adopt urban powers for your township. Okay, so now that we know what power or what sort of towns these apply to, the next question is, what does it mean to have them? Well, so there are extra powers. And there are, although these are relatively small and relatively rare, there are extra duties that come with this designation too. First, we're going to talk about some extra powers, and then I will give you some examples of the extra duties here. So some of these powers, so we have traditionally classed these in kind of 2 big families. There are the entirely new powers, and you'll see a list of examples there. So economic development, nuisance abatement, municipal utility powers, sidewalks. You get the clear ability to have sidewalks. And then there are some additional regulatory powers, like you can regulate taxis now, you can regulate waterways, certain merchants you get to regulate. And then there are the other family of powers, which frankly, well, I think these are a little bit more practical, but your mileage may vary and your situation may vary. So don't take my editorializing to heart here. So powers like you don't need elector approval to build and acquire buildings anymore, to establish and maintain a cemetery anymore. Fire department, police departments, parks. You can require people to remove snow and ice from their property without an affirmative vote from the electors. Now, I want to emphasize that this is not an exhaustive list. And I'm not sure that there is an exhaustive list out there, partially because some of these, so there is another, through private legislation, one can gain urban powers. But even leaving that aside, the legislature has a way of sneaking in extra powers here or there in weird little statutes. And you guys have gotten this one before, but it is my favorite example of a weird urban township power. So from 34A.405 subdivision 3, any town which exercises chapter 368, that is urban powers within Ramsey County, has the right to issue liquor licenses directly. And of course, the little white bear is happy because White Bear Township is the only township that fits that description. But so the next portion of the presentation, I just thought I'd run through some specific examples and just kind of give you a sense of how it is that the comparison works. So up on your screen there, you'll see selections from Minnesota Statute 365.10. That is the annual meeting statute, and 368.01. That is the urban power statute. So what we're talking about here specifically is subdivision 6 in 365.10 and subdivision 2 in 368.01. Now, without urban powers, you have to do this at the annual meeting. You need to ask permission from the voters specifically to build a building. They have to set the amount. And specifically, if you want to move the site of the town hall, you're going to need a vote by a 2/3 majority. Now, of course, there are in practice ways around that potentially, but it can be a lift. Versus the 368 version, town board may construct or acquire structures needed for town purposes. Another great example is town powers relating to animals. So here we have Minnesota Statute 365.10 subdivision 3. The electors may make orders and bylaws on restraining horses, cattle, sheep, swine, other domestic animals from going at large on the roads. And Minnesota Statute 365.10 subdivision 13, the electors may let the town board pass an ordinance for licensing dogs and cats, regulating their presence and keeping and running at large in the town. Now compare that to the urban powers version, 368.01 subdivision 13, the town board may by ordinance regulate. So in the chapter 365 version, we've got this odd division of authority related to what kind of animal is doing what bad thing where. If it's a domestic animal going at large on the road, then the electors get to decide what the rules are themselves. If it's dogs and cats being kept in a home, then the electors grant the town board the authority. The town board has to then do this by ordinance, versus the very clean, straightforward, in my view, easier to interpret and use, chapter 368 version. But of course, there are others here. Now, some of these here, we're just sort of giving you a list. 368.01, you can regulate nuisances. 368.01 subdivision 5, the cemetery power. A bigger one here is Minnesota Statute 469.191, which is if you have adopted these powers, then you can appropriate $50,000 annually to create an economic development fund, which can be a pretty big deal and can be a pretty useful power. Now, at the bottom of your screen there, you will see my favorite weird town power that I have found in my research, which is regular towns do not get to regulate the landing of seaplanes within their jurisdiction, but urban towns do. So if you've got any seaplanes that are annoying you, you may want to pick this one up. But of course, there are potential downsides, as with anything in life. So in my view, the biggest one comes from Minnesota Government Data Practices Act. Now you'll see selections from that up on your screen here. That's Minnesota Statute 13.02. Any town exercising powers in Chapter 368. Now, of course, it's not all urban townships. As you see there, they also have to be within the metropolitan area now specifically as defined by 473.121. But you really do not want MGTPA to apply to you. It's huge, it's complicated, it's full to the brim of exceptions, type timelines and penalties. So this is certainly something to consider. Now, another one that I've discovered in my research comes from Minnesota Statute 115A.941, which tells us that every urban powers township, quote, shall ensure that every residential household and business in the town or city has a solid waste collection service. So that is a clear extra duty that needs to be provided for, that is in Minnesota statutes. But those aren't the only potential extra obligations. You will also see regulations that can change depending on your status as an urban township versus not an urban township. For example, Minnesota Rule Part 7819.5000 provides certain extra requirements for buried and telecommunications facilities if you're doing that in your roads and you're an urban township. Now, there are not that many of these, but they tend to sneak up in weird places and they tend to be a little bit difficult to find. So it's something to consider potentially if you are considering adopting these things. But in general, I would say that generally speaking, what you're getting is a lot of extra power, a lot of extra flexibility. You do have to, it does change the structure of your government slightly. You end up with a 5-board supervisor. I'd be happy to talk more about that if you guys are interested. And there are some potential downsides too. So, you know, this is something that you could consider doing if it seems like it might be a good fit for your township. Please don't hesitate to ask us any questions, shoot us an email, what have you. So, all right, Pat, is the animal thing for every township or urban ones? So what we were looking at there earlier is the difference between, so both urban and rural and non-urban townships can regulate the keeping of animals. What you were seeing, chapter 365 is something that applies to every township, right? That's the annual meeting at which the electors have to be. So the electors have to turn those powers off and on. That is, except for the provision about regulating them on the roads. Interestingly, I believe that is the only one in which the electors theoretically get to pass an ordinance on their own. So that can be a bit of an awkwardness. But yes, so both forms of government can exercise authority over animals under certain circumstances. It just requires a little bit more forethought, it's a little bit more difficult to do in the traditional structure, if that makes sense. All right, so has anybody got any other questions?
Graham, do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yep.
I appreciate that. Perfect, thank you. Yeah, any other questions anybody has? If not, I do see that I think Lori has something she wants to talk on the training front. And Lori, take it away. There she is.
Here I am. Just a couple of things. If you have March elections, you should have posted that notice. Last Friday was the last day to post. So make sure you get those notices of your annual meeting and election if that pertains to you elections. For sure, your annual meeting, we all have our annual meeting on Tuesday. Some issues have been coming up concerning CTAS and year end and making some changes to the previous year. And now my beginning balances aren't right for 2023 and it's making everything wrong in my cash balance statement. I'm not balancing with the bank. Lori, what am I going to do? And then right after I calm them down and wipe their tears, I tell them that it's very simple. If you do happen to make, after you close your year end for 2022 and you make changes to 2022, you have to go back and redo your year end processing. So you go into your admin tab. I don't know, I'm going to try to share my screen. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm going to try it.
You should be able to.
Share screen, share. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. Now I have to remember that it kind of goes slow. So you see my big pink arrow here. Hopefully you can all follow that. You're going to go into the admin tab and then you're going to go over here and hit admin again. The first thing you're going to want to do is go over here to edit system information. And you're going to want to change your fiscal year here back to 2022. So we're going to change it back to 2022 and we're going to save it. Now this is if you made changes after you did your year-end processing. Okay, we got it changed back to fiscal year 2022 here. So now we're going to go up and we're going to do our year-end processing again. Over here is current fiscal year and then the new fiscal year. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with our year-end processing. That should transfer your ending balances over to your beginning balances for 2023. If it does not, give us a call and we'll look into what possibly could be happening. I know I helped Pat yesterday, Pat and her treasurer yesterday. There are other things we can look at. There are other things we can do. I don't want to get into that now because then I'll have all of you clerks and treasurers going into your CTAS and making changes you're not supposed to make. So it's an individual basis. But if you have problems with CTAS, if you have problems with anything, please give us a call. Don't spend days and days and days on it. It might be something simple you just need to talk through. Voiding checks is another one. We are in the process of getting some CTES videos up on our Matt U. Now, I don't know how soon that's going to be because we have spring short courses coming and we're kind of bombarded with that. But in my downtime, you know, between 2 and 3 in the morning, I'll see what I can put together for y'all. So if you have any questions, I'm here. Let me know. Bye, Pat.
Thanks, Lori. Appreciate that.
But like
Yeah.
I said, don't work on things forever and ever and ever. Just give us a call and let us help you with it.
Right. And on that note with Matt U, we are running behind on that. Please still bring us your emails, send your emails in that you want to register for it, and we can get you the passwords. Lori and I are getting ourselves up to speed on that. We have one staff member who is out on extended medical leave right now. And so that's really put us behind the curveball on this deal. But we still want to try and get this up for you, up and running for you as much as possible. As Lori said, we want to get some CTAS videos. Our goal, just so you know, is that our goal is to actually create a certification program. And so that when you have new treasurers or clerks and or even you veterans that are learning how to do CTAS, we want to be able to get you certified so you feel comfortable, at least with the basics on how to do CTAS. And so that is our ultimate goal. We're working very closely with the auditor's office to get moving on that. They have some things that they need to do on their end in order to accommodate that, but it'll be our trainers that are going to be training you and with the videos and so forth. And it'll be in succession, or be a progression, I should say, of videos until you feel comfortable in order to actually do CTAS. Diane has a question. Are townships required to fill out our ARPA funding report for this year? Only if you don't want to go to jail. I'm kidding. You won't go to jail. But yes, you do have to fill out your funding report for this year. I would appreciate that. So the federal government and Treasury would appreciate that as well. Again, if you have any issues with that, Nicole is our ARPA guru. And if you call in, I'm sure that Lori would be more than happy to transfer you over to Nicole, and she can help. There's Nicole.
There she is. And that's not due till the end of April. So don't get too excited about it right now, but it's not due till the end of April.
Correct. So any other questions out there? I tell you what, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on board, and I see a lot of familiar faces, see a lot of familiar names week in and week out, or every other week when we do these things. I appreciate you guys staying with us and trying to learn as much as you can about what's happening with the association. You are why we do this, and so it definitely pleases us when we see these names and faces out there who actually care about what it is that we do. And so have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. Be safe. Thursday is going to be a nasty day. And so please be careful out there. And we'll see y'all in 2 weeks, and we'll see you at the spring short courses. Talk to you soon.